Okay, so we are here, guys. We are finally at the end of Age of Apocalypse, and we're now getting into X-Men Omega. Now, X-Men Omega wraps up the entire event. Now, technically, when it comes to this reality, it does kind of end on a cliffhanger where we're kind of left to believe that this world was completely wiped out. But when it comes to Marvel, and the thing is, they love the idea of revisiting old events in different types of ways. And so when it comes to Age of Apocalypse, yes, it does end on this note right here. But there's like two more storylines that come out in the mid 2000s that kind of revisit this reality. So don't believe that this reality is completely gone as we get into the end of this video. And so as we get into the opening pages of this storyline, can I just say that there's a reason why Apocalypse is one of my top 10 favorite villains of all time. I feel like for a lot of people out there, it's the same thing as well, because Apocalypse just comes out strong. It's like, man, dude, you're just evil, pure evil. It's so crazy because in the opening pages of the storyline, we pick up with Apocalypse just talking down to Magneto. Now, remember, when it came to Magneto and for Apocalypse, they battled in the early parts of our coverage over this event. And Magneto lost that battle, and it led into Magneto and Bishop both being held as prisoners in two different locations. Now, for Magneto, he was being held as a prisoner by Apocalypse. And you had Apocalypse just beat down on Magneto over and over again. But this is Apocalypse telling Magneto like, hey, listen, I want to tell you that you are going to lose because I know that sooner or later the X-Men are going to arrive. Now for Magneto, he believes that Apocalypse believes that the reason why the X-Men are coming is to save him. He's all like, listen, you don't know my X-Men. They're not going to come after me to make sure our plan works. They'll go ahead and try their best to finish my plan to get rid of this reality. But it's Apocalypse saying, no. You see, here's the thing, Magneto. I do know your plan because when you had my people, the Madri, go into the mind of Bishop, they had discovered your plan. The whole idea of trying to bring back the old reality that's better than this reality. But on top of that, I also discovered the Imcron crystal, the major part of your whole entire plan. And so the thing is, I know the X-Men are not coming for you. They're coming for the Imcron crystal. But now we had to switch over to Angel. And this is where Angel kind of begins to play a major part in the storyline. Not like a super major part, but it's a small major part that kind of helps other characters go after Apocalypse. Let me explain. So for Angel, in the earlier parts of our coverage of this event, when it came to Angel, we learned that he was kind of in the middle, right? He was not really helping out the mutants nor the humans, but also he had a club known as Heaven. And when it came to Club Heaven, it was neutral grounds, meaning that mutants and humans were not allowed to fight against one another inside his club. Now, his club got shut down, and the reason why, because they found two spies for the Human High Council, Karma and another woman known as Scarlet. And so for Apocalypse, the club had to get shut down. Now for Angel, we're seeing him going out of his way to save one of the two people who was working in his club, and that would be Karma. And the thing was, Karma was being tortured for a good while in this event, where they were able to discover that Scarlet, the other spy, was working for the Human High Council. But for Angel, he likes Karma a lot. She was his partner. And so as he goes over to her to save her, he's too late. She's been tortured so much that she dies in his arms. Now, for Angel, he was at the pens, but he was not the only ones there. You also had the X-Men. Now, the pens were like the prison that Mr. Sinister and Dark Beast had built, where they had collected mutants and humans and used them for different types of experiments. And so when it came to Mr. Sinister, he dipped out and it put Dark Beast in charge alongside with Havoc and also Cyclops. Now, as we all know, for Cyclops, he has switched sides. He kind of realized that working for Apocalypse is the wrong thing to do. And so him and Jean Grey were able to kind of help out with a prison break. And so when the X-Men arrived, at first, they believed that they were going to run into an army of different soldiers, but they don't, because thanks to Cyclops and Jean Grey and the army of prisoners, most of those soldiers were already taken out. And you have Dark Beast tell the X-Men like, yeah, this was done by Cyclops and Jean Grey. But getting into the reason why I said, hey, Angel is very important because, well, with Angel going out of his way to sacrifice his life to take down the force field that was protecting the inner area of the base of Apocalypse, it now allows Nate Gray to go after Apocalypse. And remember, Nate Gray was told by two people to do two different things. You had Forge tell Nate, you need to find Magneto. You have Mr. Sinister tell Nate, like, you need to kill off Apocalypse. And so technically right now it's him killing two birds with one stone. And so he's able to go inside the base. But before we see Nate fight against Apocalypse, you have Apocalypse get word about what just happened in the western part of North America, because now you have the Human High Council beginning their attack. Their attack is the idea of dropping nukes across North America to hopefully kill off Apocalypse, but to also kill off his entire empire as well. And so right now, he just got word that the Human High Council had just bombed the entire west part of North America. And so it's him saying, we need to retaliate. We need to fight back. Before Magneto, he just realized millions of lives were just lost thanks to that one single attack. And it's all because of Apocalypse. But then at the very last second, when it comes to Apocalypse wanting to kill off Magneto, you have Nate Gray arrive. When he arrives, he's kind of like, hey, listen, I'm here to protect that man right there, but to also kill off Apocalypse. So now we're getting into the whole idea of us seeing Magneto and Nate Gray fighting against Apocalypse, but also his son Holocaust as well. Now, for the X-Men, they're able to get inside the main base of Apocalypse, and they do find the shard of the M'Kraan crystal that has technically grown in size. Now, here's the thing, because with the shard, they're able to see the old reality, really more of Destiny, because with her ability, she's kind of able to see different possibilities of different timelines or different futures. And so for her, she realized that everything Bishop has been saying is technically true. The whole idea that this reality should not be around at all. And so now it's time for her and Illyana and Bishop to go inside the M'Kraan crystal, go back in time to prevent Legion from killing off Magneto, which of course, sorry, not kill off Magneto, kill off Charles Xavier, which of course led into this timeline. And the reason why only those three characters can go inside the M'Kraan crystal is because they don't have a counterpart in the old timeline. Destiny and Illyana, they're both dead in the old timeline. And for Bishop, he's from the old timeline. And so that is why only those three characters can go inside the M'Kraan crystal to pull off this mission. While you have Nate Gray fight against Holocaust, you have Magneto talk to Illyana to kind of get her motivated to help out, to give her that courage. But she has a question. She's all like, hey, if I do help out, can you tell me this right here? If I do help to bring back this old reality, will little girls like me have a better life? Will little girls like me not be so scared like we are in this reality? And the thing is, for Magneto, he can't promise that because he's not from that old reality. But Bishop can, but he doesn't. What he says is that, listen, what I can promise that there is hope. The idea of hope being around is a great thing, that the world could one day be a better place. Kind of hinting at the idea that there's no hope in this reality because things gotten so bad. But with Bishop saying that, for Illyana, she's down with the idea of helping out. And so you then have the three characters, Destiny, Bishop, Illyana. They go inside the M'Kraan crystal while you have the rest of the X-Men try their best to hold off the forces of Apocalypse. Now, for Jean Grey, it's her just finding out what exactly happened out in the West. The whole idea that the Human High Council just dropped nukes, and now they're going to drop nukes out in the East, where everyone is currently at. And so you have Jean Grey just trying her best to protect this area because her mission, or her goal really, was to get people out of North America before the bombs drop. And the problem is, she's too late. Now, while she's trying to hold off the bombs, you didn't have Logan appear. And remember, in this reality, these two characters, they were a couple, but she left his side when she realized what they were doing. Helping out the Human High Council was technically wrong. And so now, it's the first time in a good while you're going to have these two characters meet each other. And the next few pages are really more of us just seeing, Nate Gray fighting against Holocaust, which honestly is pretty cool. But at the same time, I kind of feel like if Nate Gray was created to kill off Apocalypse, Holocaust should be easy to take out because we have seen other characters being able to, do some serious damage to Holocaust. So for me, Nate Gray should win very easily. Now, while you have him fighting against Holocaust, the rest of the X-Men, they're fighting against the forces of Apocalypse. But you didn't have Colossus kind of go on this rampage because he hates the idea of his younger sister being used for this mission because for a good while, he thought she was dead. It was Magneto saying, one, she's not dead, and two, there is a possibility that she might have a power that could possibly help us pull off our mission. But for Colossus, he's kind of like, listen, she's the only thing I have left now. And I hate the idea of using my sister for a possibility of pulling off some kind of mission. And so now it's him trying to go inside the crystal to go get his sister out of there. And you have other members of the X-Men like Iceman trying to stop him. But inside the M'Kraan crystal, we're seeing Destiny and also Bishop and Illyana seeing all these different images of the old reality. Chambers, Banshee, Storm, Jean Grey, Havoc, Angel, Legion, Thunderbird, or Warpath, who knows? But it's them kind of realizing like, okay, this reality has to come back into the picture. And so for Illyana, she does use her powers to open up a portal to kind of help Bishop go back in time to hopefully stop Legion from killing off Charles Xavier that will lead into this reality. Now, I kind of want to switch over to Magneto because this is such a cool moment for my boy. Okay, so for Magneto, he's like, you know what, Apocalypse, it's you and I, let's go to war. Now, for Apocalypse, he's really big on survival of the fittest. It's the whole thing about Apocalypse, that the weak must die, the strong may live, the strong may lead the weak, and the weak must follow. But for Magneto, he's kind of like, listen, I was technically part of World War II. There was a man who tried to kill off my people. Of course, talking about Hitler. And the thing was, it was the weak who was able to overcome Hitler, is what Magneto is trying to say. That right now for Apocalypse, he may look at Magneto and the rest of the X-Men as weak, but the weak is going to win today. And so you have Magneto just beat down on Apocalypse. But now we have to get into the whole idea, the whole idea of Jean Grey dying because, okay, while you have Jean Grey trying to use her powers to protect this area, Havoc sneaks up on her and Cyclops and really blasts her right in the back. So we're getting into the death of Jean Grey. Now for Scott Summers, he's ticked off. And the reason why, because, okay, for Scott Summers, him and Havoc, they hate each other in this reality, but really it's more Havoc hating Scott Summers. Because for Scott, he was given everything by Mr. Sinister and Apocalypse. And for Havoc, he feels like he's more deserving of everything that Cyclops had received over the years. And you also have Mr. Sinister kind of put Cyclops on this pedestal. And so it's having saying, no, I am finally going to get rid of you once and for all. But it's Cyclops saying, you fool, what you have done is going to kill us all off, because Jean Grey was trying to use her powers to protect this area, but unfortunately, she is now dead. Now, at the very last second, you have Logan kill off Havoc because he loved Jean Grey. That was his woman. And so after killing off Havoc, Jean Grey dies in the arms of Logan. And I had just realized that I forgot to mention the fact that when it came to Sugar Man, he was able to go inside the M'Kraan crystal. Now, I'm kind of left to believe that because he does not have a counterpart in the old timeline, the 616 reality, it should allow him to go into the main Marvel universe. But we also see Dark Beast trying to teleport into the center of the M'Kraan crystal. Now, technically for Dark Beast, he does have a counterpart, and that would be regular Beast. But either way, you do have Quicksilver trying his best to change the idea where Dark Beast could go. And the thing is, we're kind of left to wonder, did Dark Beast, succeed when it comes to being teleported inside the M'Kraan crystal? Now we get into, another death in this storyline, and that would be Kitty Pryde. Now in this reality, Kitty Pryde and Colossus were married. But the problem is that for Colossus, this dude is just going on a rampage to get to the M'Kraan crystal, to go inside to save Illyana. And you have Kitty Pryde try to stop him, and he just steps right over her, killing her off just like that. So Kitty Pryde is dead. And you then have Gambit shoot Colossus in the back to, of course, kill him off for what he did to Kitty Pryde. And so for Illyana, she comes out of the M'Kraan crystal excited about the fact that she was able to help out the X-Men. But the problem is that her brother had just been killed off by Gambit. And so he's now dying in front of her, and you have Quicksilver take her away so she would not have to see the death of her brother. Now, for Magneto and Rogue, they were kind of working together to fight against Apocalypse, but also Strong Guy. Now, Strong Guy was part of Gambit's Externals team. We did learn that he was technically a traitor who was working for Apocalypse. But either way, Strong Guy was holding on to Charles. And so you had Rogue being able to save Charles and get rid of Strong Guy. But you also now have Magneto fighting against Apocalypse in one big final battle. And you also have Nate Gray being able to jump in the battle to kind of help Magneto fight against Apocalypse, especially with the idea that Apocalypse is responsible for the death of Forge, who is kind of like a father to Nate Gray. Now, for Bishop, he does arrive in the old timeline. And with him being able to arrive in the old timeline, he sees Legion about to kill off Magneto, which, of course, kills off Charles Xavier on accident, where, of course, it leads into this alternate timeline. And so you have Bishop saying, David, stop. Like, Legion, stop. Read my mind. Let me show you what's going to happen if you try to continue on with this mission. And so you have Bishop just show Legion the whole Age of Apocalypse timeline. And so he begins to realize that what he was trying to do is wrong. Like, yes, it's cool that you were trying to help out your father to reach his goal where mutants and humans can live together in harmony. But the problem is that you're going to kill off your father on accident and bring in a horrible timeline. And so once you have Legion realize that, he disappears. But he was the anchor for the 4 other members of the X-Men who were also pulled back in time thanks to Legion. And so with him going away, they also go away, but it also begins the possibility of the end of the Age of Apocalypse timeline. And so for Bishop, he also goes back into the old timeline as well. And so now we are able to get into the ending of this event, the ending of this storyline, because you have Nate Gray and Magneto working together to fight against Apocalypse, to fight against Holocaust. And And you have Nate being able to handle Holocaust, but you also have Magneto being able to handle Apocalypse. And you have Magneto just rip Apocalypse in half. And I'm kind of like, dang, man. Just ripped this man in half and said, hey, I was right. The weak will win. We have survived and the strongest have fallen. And the world might be a better place. Well, technically, it won't be a better place. And the reason why, because with Jean Grey dying, those nuclear bombs are going to drop in this area. So it's Magneto, Rogue, being able to spend time together with their son for one last final moment. And as the bombs drop, all we see is this bright light. And we're kind of left to believe that this reality is officially dead. And this is where we're going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.